see Sean Spicer in Chicago on August 8th. Tickets are absolutely free. Get yours at 560theanswer.com/briefing.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. I'll tell you what, when the most pointed and specific critiques of a Republican president's nominee to the Supreme Court are coming from conservative talk show hosts like Mark Levin, you're probably in a pretty good place, as well as with a lot of conservatives still backing them. But all the left has to offer, like these Yale law students and alumni and professors, are just kind of screeching generically about Brett Kavanaugh being the end of the world, the end of life in America as we know it. That's not going to be enough. And otherwise, this guy presents as a Boy Scout.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's very philanthropic, and I know that he sold that, to the American people when he was introducing himself on Monday night, but he's a man of his word. I mean, yesterday he was caught, are you ready for this? Feeding the homeless hot meals.
Yeah.
Ooh. But that's something that he had scheduled to do long before he became the Supreme Court Justice nominee.
So far, you've got... let's see, he spent a lot of money on Washington Nationals tickets that his friends later reimbursed him for. And
he put home improvements on his credit card, which he paid.
Yeah, he got to the home improvements. But what were those home improvements?
Yeah.
A secret line to Putin, maybe? And then you got 20 years ago, he was at some State of the Union watch party with Laura Ingraham, or at Laura Ingram's place, and he allegedly mouthed the word "biatch" to describe Hillary Clinton when she came on screen.
I thought that he said he's got an itch. I don't know.
Sure. That doesn't seem like that's going to be enough to topple this nomination, but what do I know? For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by the managing editor for the Washington Examiner, WashingtonExaminer.com. He is Philip Klein. Philip Klein, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So, the combination of, it seems like, a very kind of thin oppo file on Kavanaugh, combined with some red state Democrats who are down in the polls right now, Heitkamp, Nelson, and Donnelly. Do you see, other than a lot of histrionics, any real trouble for Kavanaugh getting confirmed?
No, at this stage, it's hard to see that he has problems. Right now, I mean, obviously, given the thinness of the Republican majority, and the Democrats' sort of posture of total resistance, you could never say anything's guaranteed. However, it strikes me that Kavanaugh has been in the Washington legal scene. He's been an insider for decades. He's very well known. He has been a federal judge for a dozen years. He was added quite conspicuously to the Supreme Court list put out by Trump last November. And when he was added, a lot of people thought, okay, well, if he's adding him, that suggests he might be the pick, or at least high on the short list. And so Democrats who have a lot of money and liberal groups who are dedicated to defeating conservative judges have had 8 months to dig up anything they could on Kavanaugh. And typically, a nominee, you want to badger them right out of the gate as sort of unacceptable. I mean, if you remember the initial borking of Robert Bork, right after his nomination, Ted Kennedy came out and sort of talked about Robert Bork's America, and it was kind of a nonstop barrage. And so it's very unlikely that they have anything big on him that's going to tank them. And if you look at the Republican centrists, their language has been very positive. Collins of Maine, who's one of the potential no votes, was very effusive about his experience and thought a lot of the Democratic attacks were overblown and so forth. So I'd be surprised at this point if he didn't go down, if he weren't confirmed. But, again, that given the thinness of the majority, there's always that question mark.
Well, what's going to be the centerpiece for the Democrats' line of attack? Is it going to be a decision that he made on Obamacare?
It seems like right now they're talking about this other Obamacare suit. Right now there's this suit coming that's in Texas right now, where about 20 states got together, and they're basically it's another legal challenge saying Obamacare has to be overturned, and the Trump administration said that they're not defending Obamacare, and that they think that the pre-existing condition regulations are now unconstitutional. And we could go into the legal arguments if you want, but the bottom line is that this is a very long shot case. It's at the district court, lower court level. It hasn't even been argued yet. And Democrats are trying to hinge onto that to say that if Kavanaugh is the nominee, then he's going to get rid of pre-existing conditions. And it's just like it's a huge stretch, and the fact that they're stretching this far makes me wonder, well, do they really have anything? And then, my suspicions that they have nothing on him were only reconfirmed with the great Washington Post expose on the fact that he bought Nationals tickets on a credit card that were later reimbursed by friends who he split the tickets with.
That's a real story of international intrigue. Here's the thing. So the Obamacare thing, it seems to me, is the second prong of the two-prong hysteria that's proffered by Democrats. Chuck Schumer sort of telegraphed it earlier in the week. The first is going to be, of course, overturning Roe v. Wade, and this is particularly important for Democrats. It would seem some polling that came out this week that suggests the enthusiasm to vote in the midterms among women, where Democrats have electoral advantage, isn't sort of where it needs to be for Democrats to be successful in November, and this may be the path they see to energizing that cohort of the electorate.
Yes, but the problem that they face is that in order to take over the Senate, because the Senate seats that are up this year are the ones that Democrats won in 2012 when it was a good year for Democrats when President Obama was reelected. Mm-hmm. A lot of the states there are basically about 8 states that are considered toss-ups. And Democrats have to win 7 of those 8 states in order to gain control of the Senate. They have to virtually run the table, and most of those states are states that are red states that Trump won, and by wide margins. So you have, for instance, Missouri, West Virginia, North Dakota, and Indiana, all states that were heavily Trump. And they all have Democrats who are running for re-election. So if they actually do vote down this nominee, then it actually puts in danger their ability to retake the Senate, and they could actually end up losing Senate seats.
Well, that's
so
it.
There's this sort of tension, because if they actually are successful in defeating the nomination, then it actually could prevent them from winning the Senate, even as it may help them in certain districts on the House side.
Well, that's what. Yeah, that started out talking about Donnelly, Heitkamp, and Nelson being down in the polls right now, and of course there are other opportunities for Republican pickups in places like West Virginia and Montana. And it just seems to me highly unlikely that a Heitkamp or a Donnelly or a Nelson would want to seal their fate on what appears to be a quixotic vote against confirming Kavanaugh.
Well, keep in mind that Manchin and Donnelly and Heidkamp already voted for Gorsuch.
Yeah, right.
Right.
So it seems to me, I think the difficulty that they're going to have is if Republicans, like if Collins and Murkowski somehow vote no, and then the nomination, then Republicans need Democrats to put the nomination over the top. That's going to be a more difficult vote for them than a situation in which Republicans are aligned, the nomination's going through. At that point, it almost becomes a pre-vote to just say, I'm independent of my party, and I voted yes for Trump's Supreme Court nominee.
Do you know how soon we can get the confirmation hearings can get started?
I don't know, because part of the reason, this is one reason why, this was one of the sort of reasons why McConnell was cautious about causing Trump about Kavanaugh, is that because he has such a long record dating back to his days when he was a lawyer in Ken Starr's investigation of President Clinton and working in the Bush White House and 12 years on the appellate court, he has a very long paper trail. So what Democrats are going to try to do to delay the nomination is they're going to request all sorts of documents from dating back to his days in the Bush White House, dating back to the Ken Starr investigation. So you basically have over 20 years of document requests. And so the hope is that the way that Democrats do it is that they wait for the documents. They say that, well, we have to have these documents so we could vet the nominee. And if Republicans don't release them, they're going to say they're stonewalling. What are they hiding? They're not being transparent. And then if they do release everything, then it's going to delay any vote on months and months. And Republicans want to have him confirmed by October 1st so that he could sit on the court for the next session, and so that it doesn't take, so that he's in place before the November election, so that they don't risk losing the Senate and then not being able to confirm him.
Yeah,
so,
they can just, look, Republicans can just say, look, confirm him to see what's in those files. And that should satisfy Nancy Pelosi.
My guess is that they'll release a certain number of files so that they can defang Democratic attacks by saying, look, by having a huge stack or something. We've released, 100,000 files and, the Democrats have had, and they've had months to look at them, and now it's time to vote, right? So I think that at some point they're going to cut it off because Democrats could endlessly ask for different documents and so forth.
We'll produce all the documents when Rod Rosenstein does. Philip Klein, managing editor for the Washington Examiner, WashingtonExaminer.com. His latest column is on Democrats' focus on Obamacare as it pertains to Brett Kavanaugh's nomination. Philip, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer.